And I was there when he met Marcy and just a lot of things. But we were talking about any Wednesday and Herral back in 1960. When was it? 63. We're sitting around my house, and I have, for those of you who know me, I have a lot of kids. And it's hard to get babysitters, so I have a lot of kids. And so I was home a lot and had a great big house, and we're sitting around, and I had lived in Mexico and played guitar, and 4 of my friends have been there, born guitarists, and but they didn't know how to play. And I said to Herral, Herral, we know everything that's happening in town. Find us a folk singer, and on a Wednesday night, bring him over and learn to play guitar. And he did, and the next Wednesday night he came over with this young man. This young man is in the room today. He came over with this young man, and he played, and he was wonderful. And I said, well, how much are you going to charge us? And he said, nothing if we're friends. If you're going to pull segregation, it's $25 a night. And that's Dave Browning. Dave, will you stand up? Said no other people. There's Dave. And then we have Hank Pauley here. And those of you who remember, 3 Sheets in the Wind and Hank Pauley, what a great group that was. And so, any Wednesday started. And it started with tea, and everything was very lovely. We graduated to beer, and then bottles, and then we got a keg cooler, and it grew and grew. And Herral was infinitely involved in any Wednesday, and had a lot to do with bringing a lot of people in. He'd go to New York and get these managers. He told them I was president. I don't know what, but I was president. And if you wanted anything, just to call in Toledo. And at that time, we had a lot of folk singers moving from New York to Chicago. They go through Toledo and stay overnight and play for us. And if you see the people here today, and everybody plays any Wednesday at some time or another, right? And so that was what that was all about. And as far as incidences are concerned, I do want to say my family was very much a part of a lot of his played photographs of different special stories he had to do. And if it would be a special story, it's snow in May, he would get my 3-year-old, because he was Uncle Herral to my kids, very much a part of my family. And he would go over and get one of my kids, and he took my 3-year-old and put her snowsuit on and put her in the snow, front page picture of the play. She had no mittens on. He never put her mittens on. And I heard from everybody what a lousy mother I was. And he would do things like that. And they'd do a story on poison, and he'd get one of my kids taking the cleaning fluids out from underneath the sink. And then he'd get another child that wanted to run away from home, and he'd get my child in poison. He'd call me in the middle of the night, Joyce, you gotta get up and come down and sit on the lion for me, because the lion store is moving the lions tomorrow. And I want a picture. 3 a.m. I'm sitting on top of a lion at the lion store. And those are just some of my memories that I have to say about Herral. And thanking all of you very much for being here and very much a part of his life. Thank you.
That was iconic.
Joyce, thumbs up. Thank you so much for those wonderful memories of Herral. We all have memories of Herral, and we are sharing some of those memories. If you walk through that door right there to the left, the Cyril's room and the Kelly room, the family is asking that all of you do about a 1 or 2 minute testimonial. They're recording in the quiet rooms back there. So before you leave, please get a green sheet, registration sheet, put your name on it. They'll tell you what to do. And please record some of your memories. The library is going to put it together and edit it, and it will be available on ToledoLibrary.org for the community to share and enjoy. At this time, we are wonderfully blessed to have Sally Valongo. She is legendary. She used to be my editor, and I always say that that's why I'm a really good writer right now because she was tough. She was very tough. And Sally collaborated with Herral Long for the wonderful Long View. Do we have a copy at the desk over there? Yes, we have a copy of it on display. That is the library's copy on display. And Sally has been gracious to come to the podium. The family has asked that she say a few words, very impromptu. So thank you, Sally Malongo, for being here.
Well, it's funny how a death brings people together and brings people out and over long distances, sad but true. And I'm delighted to see so many people from the past that I was fortunate enough to share with Herral. I apologize if I get a little verklempt. I met him as a Blade reporter, a very green one, and we had at the Blade a fabulous photographic staff. Hi, Luke. I mean, I've seen so many of you here, and as a feature writer, I would go out with the photographer. I would make what we called a photo order or photo assignment, but it was really a photo suggestion, and the photographer would take what I had written was what I needed or what any of us needed as a starting point. And all of our photographers brought in fabulous images that we could, as writers, couldn't have thought of. But Herral never ceased to surprise and amaze me with what he would come up with. And that was part of the thrill of working with Herral as a journalist. But I was fortunate to work with him in other ways too. My wonderful husband Fred and I had written a column starting in 1987 called The New Age. And if anybody in Toledo knew the New Age and lived it, it was Herral. Herral had really no boundaries. When you met him, you got the whole package. You got everything, whatever he was thinking about. Not that he wasn't discriminating, but that he was very open. And I'll just share with you one experience that we had, Fred and I had with Herral, related to the New Age. At that time, of course, we were writing about things that were sometimes scandalous, sometimes insulting, not insulting to people, but made people upset. And one of the things that I wrote about one time was a fire walk. Does anybody know what that is? Okay, I see a few hands, I'm not surprised. Well, it was part of the sort of 1990s really, way of expressing your faith in the power of the mind and the soul to overcome physical dangers. And a fire walk was held at a fire pit where an enormous square, maybe 10 by 10, would be burnt, and then there would be glowing coals, and you would be primed by a leader to then walk over those coals and experience no pain. So we found out about one, we were invited, and Herral, of course, was the person to go along. We rode up with Herral, and that was an adventure in itself, but I won't say any more about that. And Herral had his cameras, but he was also a participant, and that also was very much a Herald style. And when it came time for the fire walk, I think there must have been 25 people. This was in Michigan on a beautiful starry night up in the Irish Hills. Herral was first in line, right, to walk across the coals. And he did. And of course, whether he felt any pain or not, he didn't say that he felt any pain. You went. Did you feel any pain, Fred? No. But Herral was so excited by it that he kept going back. At least 10 times, yes. And that, to me, that was one of the most distinctive experiences that I ever had. And it certainly said a lot about Herral, about the power of his belief and faith. So I'm happy that Rhonda asked me, that she's forgiven me for all the tough editing I did. And it's wonderful to see all of us together, and I will never forget Herral. I think none of us ever will. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sally. We really appreciate those words. This is a copy of the Long View that Sally Valongo wrote in collaboration with Herral Long. And we do have copies here at the library. There's also a small exhibit on display on the 3rd floor in our local history and genealogy department. So the family really wants me to encourage you to take advantage of the Toledo-Lucas County Public Library. Herral Long loved the library, and he has donated over 1,000 of his works and negatives to the library. So we are so blessed to have that here. I also at this time want to ask if anyone else would come up. We want to bring up Doug Long from the family, but is there anyone else? Hi, Tari. I see Tari here. Is there anyone else? Tari? Luke, I haven't heard from you. Do you want to come up? Come on, Luke. Luke Black. Also another legendary figure at the Blake. We are just really lucky to have everyone here today. Like Sally said, it's sort of a wonderful homecoming, I want to call it, not a homegoing.
When I got out of the Army, I moved to Toledo and started working in a newspaper in Mansfield. This was about November. The following February, I met Long and Don Flory at an OMPA convention. And I was wandering around, just looking at the award-winning prints, and bumped into Herral, who was also wandering around looking at the award-winning prints. The difference was he had 4 or 5 prints hanging on the wall, and I was just starting out my career. But Herral and Don Flory and I sat and talked for several hours that night, and became very good friends. During the next 4 years, we would go from Illyria to Toledo and have lunch with each other and visit during that time. Herral was very much influential in getting me to come to the Blake. A decision that I greatly appreciated most of my life. But he was a very good friend, and I enjoyed watching Herral through the years, because I love the way he interacted with people. And when we would have interns come into the photo department, Herral was very good at talking to them, and he could inspire you to go out and do better work, and what you really felt you could do. And I noticed there was something with Herral that really affected me. And that was the character that he showed, not just professionally, but in his personal life also. And I always appreciated that. Yes.
At this time, we'd like to bring up Doug Long, who is Herral's brother. I so enjoyed looking at all, he was a photographer, but I didn't know there were that many pictures of Herral that existed. A lot. So please give your support to Mr. Doug Long.
I can stand up here and I think unequivocally claim Herral's success as being my responsibility. I'm going to give a brief history of life as Herral Long's little brother. When Herral was 18 years old and just starting out as a photographer, I was 2. And if you notice on the way in, there's a copy of the Pete section from 1949, 48, 49. Those pictures are of me. I was a lot cuter then than I am now. But Herral would use me as his model. He needed somebody to hone his photographic skills on. And what I told a lot of people is that I just followed the trail of ice cream cones. That he would bait me along and do this. He would dress me up as a model like he was doing a catalog shoot for a clothing, kids' clothing catalog, or put me on tricycles or bicycles or wagons or whatever. So I was just the cute little brother that, I didn't complain, or I don't know exactly how I got coerced into it, or if I got coerced or whatever, but like I said, I can sit up here and unequivocally claim that I'm responsible for Herral's total career. When I was in high school, I was really into automobiles, cars and things like that. And often there'd be exhibits or shows at the sports arena at the Civic Auditorium. And I learned that my brother's press passes would give me in basically free admission. So I thought, this is really cool. So I'd go down there with my buddies and I'd say, I'm Herral Long's little brother. When I found out that his name was better than cash in the pocket to get into the automotive events there, I was the hero with the guys. Life went on like that for many years. And then a few years ago, Herral was invited, as Harry Whitten spoke earlier about going to their Army reunions. Herral said he was going to their reunion in Ocean City, Maryland, and then after in early October, then after that he was going to drive to Florida for our niece's wedding. And the idea of my brother being on the road for 4,000 miles by himself. If anybody's ever ridden with Herral and followed him, you know what a detriment to society that was. So I jumped at the chance to go with him, and I got the chance to meet a lot of his Army buddies. And like Harry said, when everybody that went to the reunion, Scott came away with a group photograph. And I was included in their groups. Well, Herral and I attended 3 reunions together. We missed one when my youngest son Corey got married in Colorado. But while we were out in Colorado, Herral and I stayed about 4 or 5 days after the wedding and did some traveling around together. And he and I had some chances to do some real serious bonding. I'm not sure exactly the time. It was just after that Herral decided that it wasn't any longer viable to live in Robinwood, where you had to go up and down the back stairs and things like that. So he decided that it was time to move into the lakes of Monclova, closer to our brother Ben. And because of Ben's travel schedule, Ben's a snowbird and doesn't like it up here anymore in the wintertime, so they'd back up their motorhome and take up. Well, I was close by, close enough by that I would be able to take care of Herral, come out and make frequent trips to visit with Herral. And at first, like the trips to the Army reunions and things like that, I started to think of this as a burden. That's where it gets done. But that's when I realized it was my time to pay back. Everything I could do to my big brother. Life is, Herral Long's little brother's been one hell of a ride. I wouldn't give it up for anything.